part 4, guys. So we are going to be resuming with the pattern, and we're going to be resuming with the arms, the sleeves, and the hands. And so I'm showing you what it's going to be looking like. Use your eyes as your markers to align it. I just like to give a visual of what it's going to be looking like. So a really thin arm, no stuffing. As I specify in the written pattern, do not stuff at all. That is not necessary. You want to keep it thin. So we're going to be using our primary color, our robe color. And like I said, you want to use your eyes as your marker. So we're trying to get it perfect here before I begin. And we're going to be pulling for 3 loops in total. So I'm using my eyes as a marker here. And this is going to be the side stitch, the stitch that's coming closest to the chest. Very important stitch, because this is what's going to be determining how close your arms are coming towards the chest. And as I keep saying, use your eyes to help determine this. It's like the corner of my eye, and it helps to take a vertical stitch. So that's a vertical stitch. It's aligning perfect with the corner of the eye. And then now look for a top stitch now. So we're going to pull 3 loops in total. You want a top stitch that's like really close to the neckline or right into the neckline. That's going to be sitting flushed to the side stitch. And that's the stitch we're going to pull a loop through, the top stitch. So I use that side stitch that's aligning with the corner of the eye to help me determine the top stitch that I'm going to be pulling a loop through. So if you're pretty proficient, go ahead and find a top stitch that's right in like the neckline. And then you're going to pull a vertical stitch that's flushed to the top stitch. Because we're making a tight perimeter. We want 3 loops that are all flushed together, that are all sitting close together. No skipping over a column, no skipping over a vertical stitch. So now I'm going to be pulling for a back stitch that's flushed, that's real close to the top loop, using a vertical stitch, and I'm pulling my working yarn right through. So 3 loops in total. So for the top, that's like right in the neckline, a side stitch that's aligning with the corner of the eye, and then a back stitch that's flush to the top loop. And now we're going to be knitting very tight for 6 rows in total. No need for stuffing. You want to keep it tight, and it's going to be 6 rows in total. And that gap right on the bottom, because we didn't add a bottom stitch, is going to be naturally enclosing. Because it's perimeter, this little half square formation is so tight together. It's so small. And then we're knitting tight. The working yarn that's coming across that gap at the bottom is going to seal up. It's going to be a complete enclosed perimeter, a complete arm that's small, that's smaller. So this is what I do for my piglet. This is what you can do if you want to make thinner arms, legs. Only pull 3 loops, and there you go. And no stuffing. So it really helps if you have nails right here. Lots of tight knitting this whole pattern, but it's totally worth it. You're gonna see a very flushed, especially if you're using fluffy yarn. No seams, no seam line is shown. It's very flushed. I think it looks really pretty. And as I said, no stuffing. So you see what I'm doing here? I am squeezing it just to help, keep it thin. And the further you knit, the more rows you add, your knitting will naturally bloom out. And so that's why I'm saying, pulling 3 loops is perfect. Now the pattern calls for 6 rows, but if you feel like adding an extra row, a 7th row, and I'm showing you right here, do you see where my sleeve is coming down? About almost the midway. I feel like that's perfect, 6 rows. If you feel like adding an extra row 7, then go for it. Knit an extra row. This yarn is very fluffy, so it brings it down perfectly midway. Once you're satisfied you're good, cut a small tail or just join in your skin tone color. I'm tying a knot here and I'm going to cut off the ends because I don't want stuffing, even adding this big bulky knot. I don't want to do that, but so going to cut off the ends. But like I said, guys, I don't do the bird method. Almost burned my thumb. I'm not going to do it again. So I got a big bulky knot here. I'm going to try and push it up a little bit. So I got a little bit of bulkiness in mind because of the knot. But there's a burn method, handheld sewing method, where you sew the end tips together, the 2 different skeins, the 2 different colors. Or just tie a knot. And we're going to be knitting for 2 rows. Again, if you're following the written pattern, you see it's 2 rows. And enclose, and then I'm going to weave the tail up to secure it. You can cut a relatively long tail if you want to tie a knot on that tail end, then tuck it in for security, or you can use some fabric glue or hot glue like what I do wherever you tuck in your tails. So there's my 2 rows. Now I'm going to enclose it. Weave it just like we enclose the top of the head. Go through all loops inside out. Pull it down tight. Now I'm squeezing my arm here, guys, because I'm trying to get it to thin up a bit. The bulky knot, it's kind of like you can see where it's flared out right at the bottom because of that knot, but it doesn't look too bad. It doesn't look too bad. So now I'm going to be weaving the tail on either side. What side makes sense to me to go ahead and weave this tail? So I'm going to weave it right here under a stitch or 2 stitches. I'm just going to go under 1. Weaved it, tug, no knot for me, so I'm going to cut a real short little end tip, tuck it in very good. And again, use the hot glue right there and put in the same scrap of piece of color of yarn right there. And as long as you're careful with the gluing, you will not fill it. So this is what I mean right here, guys. Throughout the whole tutorial, what I've been saying, pushing the glue gun and then pushing the same color piece of scrap yarn and stuff it in right there. It blends. You will never know that there's glue there. You will never know that there's a cut piece of scrap yarn. As long as you're very careful with the gluing by sticking in that glue gun and pushing that scrap piece of yarn. And do you see what I'm doing? I'm molding it. You just want to really mold it and press it in so it doesn't come out. It's all secured. No glue's felt. And I'm just trying to, like, again, thin up the arm here, thin up the hand here. And that's it. That's the whole pattern for the arms. Not too bad. 3 loops, 6 rows, or 7 if you feel you want to add a 7th row in your robe, primary color, and then the hands 2 rows. So again, now we are aligning it with the corner of our eye, and then use your first arm to align it as well. That's aligning to the first arm. So check with that stitch coming closest to the chest that aligns with your eyes. You want a vertical stitch. And go ahead and pull for your 3 loops. So before I do any pulling loops, I'm checking first, which is a really good rule of thumb here. So I feel like that vertical stitch is aligning better and coming towards the chest equal distance as the first arm. So here you go, guys. I just went and jumped ahead, just rewinded to watch how we did the arm. Now the robe, guys, the part where we're going to be completing his robe. Now it's highly important to start low. We're going to be pulling for 3 or 4 loops interlocking, and I'm going to explain what I mean by interlocking. So do you see where I'm starting? I feel like I could have went 1 row down, like I should have. So I'm trying to determine where to start. I went a little too high up. I should have went a little bit further down. So use your index finger and thumb. Spread them out to make that big L shape. Like really spread them out. Get that big L shape. Put it right up against the side of your plushie, right under the arm. And see where your thumb is coming at. Right up on the side of your Jesus plushie. That's where you're going to want to start your row. So we're going to be pulling under the horizontal stitches only, and some of them are going to be really, really tight, and you're going to be trying to pull through every horizontal stitch. If you need to skip some, then skip some. And you're going to be pulling these loops, where it could fit like at least two fingers width. And like I said, some of them are going to be really tight horizontal stitches. Now I pull a total of 24. Do not go past 24 stitches. And I skipped probably like 2 horizontal stitches. So we're going to be making these loops very flush to his robe, and I'm going to show you what I mean, and that's going to be the interlocking. So right now we're going to be pulling under every horizontal stitch that you can get. But go ahead and be counting as you're pulling these loops, and make sure again you're starting low, because right now it's not too late to go and undo it and say no, and it can be lower because it's going to create an indent line, and we don't want that indent line so high up. So again, don't pull more than 24 loops we're going on under horizontal stitches. And it's okay if you need to skip a few, because some of the horizontal stitches are going to be so tight that it's just going to be impossible to pull it through. Then you know what? Go ahead and skip it. Why do I say go under every horizontal stitch then? Because it's helping the robe pattern, the design, to look flushed. Because less chunkier yarn, like if you're using Bernette or Hobby Lobby, it's going to really distinguish the seams, and it's going to show where you went under a horizontal stitch and where you didn't. And so to make it look flushed, try to go under every horizontal stitch. But it's okay to go ahead and skip 1 or 2, because we don't want to go past 24 loops. 24 loops is a lot of work, and then it was kind of tight to be doing the interlocking. So I would say, don't go past 24 loops. Go to be counting around to see how many loops you're at, if you're at 22 already or 23. So it's, this part's a lot of work right here, but like I said, you don't need to go past 24 loops, and try to get every horizontal stitch. If you're using very fluffy yarn, loops and threads, you know what? It's okay to go ahead and do a lot of skipping then, because your yarn is so fluffy that you won't even tell that you skipped this horizontal stitch and you went under this one. So you can get away with it. It is easier then. If you're using very, very fluffy yarn like the loops and threads, fluffy chino at Michael's, you can skip a lot because that yarn is so fluffy. All seams are blended. You won't be able to tell. But because this yarn, it's like in the middle of fluffiness. And for those of you that are using like the Bernette or Hobby Lobby yarn, I just want to explain that to give that flush look, you want to try and go under as many horizontal stitches, making a whole perimeter, a circumference of loops coming around your Jesus plushie. And again, make sure you're starting low. And it's like a trial and error. Because it's the first row we're doing, you can just undo it. Just undo your work if you feel like you started a little too high up. Undo all that work and do it again. We want perfection here, and it's a lot of work, I said, but it's worth it, because you don't want to get to halfway done with your robe and you're not happy where that indent line is coming up, because this is how we make a dress or skirt, and we don't want that look. So I'm going to show you how to make these loops as flushed as possible to give a robe a straight cloth look. And so my first Jesus plushie came out very nice, very straight cloth look. You can't even tell where the indent is at all. My second one, you can tell a little bit. It's because I started too high up. So that's why I said make sure you check where you're starting these loops, the first row. So your fingertips should be really hurting by now, but it's going to be worth it. It's only 3 or 4 rows in total, and then that's it. So I play total 24 loops, and I do it 4 rows. So you see, I'm checking it. I should have went lower. But I was thinking, you know what, I think it works. And no, I could have went lower. So that's what I'm trying to emphasize right now, that you have a chance right now to undo your work if you feel like it's a little high up. And so mine was. I could have went down 1 more row. So I'm carrying around here, guys. And like I said, I did a total of 24. I skipped like maybe 2 or 3 horizontal stitches. And I could have skipped more in this yarn. But I wanted to knit it where, like, if I'm using Hobby Lobby's or Bernet's yarn, just to knit along with you guys and to show the look that even if you have a fluffy yarn, if you want to go through as many horizontal stitches, you know, this is what it's going to be looking like. So once you're satisfied, you feel you started at a good height on your Jesus plushie, now we're going to be doing the interlocking. So we're going to be skipping a horizontal stitch down. So right under each loop, skip a horizontal stitch. And so I skipped a horizontal stitch, I went down to the second one, and now I'm pulling a loop of kind of like an exaggerated loop that could fit about 3 fingertips worth or about 2 fingers worth. Then I'm going to pull that loop that I just made through the top previous loop and done. Knit it like that. So now I'm going to go right over to the next one, skipping a horizontal stitch, pulling a kind of a long loop here, and then pulling that loop to the previous top loop, and done. Go on to the next one. So I do this for 24 times, 4 rows. And this is called interlocking. It's my own made up term. And this is going to help your stitches stay flushed to the body. So again, be skipping a horizontal stitch under each loop, and then pull like, a loop that's about 2 fingers or about 3 fingertips width, and take that loop you just did and pull it to the previous loop, pull it to the top loop. So skip a horizontal stitch, pull a long loop, and then pull that loop to the top loop and go on to the next one. So observe how I do this, and again, this is my own made up term technique on getting a robe-like design look versus a dress or skirt. Because if we were not to interlock these loops and just be knitting all the way down, it will very much 100% look like a dress or a skirt. So this is going to help make it look more like a flushed one whole piece, one whole long cloth. And like I said, a total of 3 or 4 rows, because you're going to be skipping now a horizontal stitch, working it down. And you should get about up to 3 rows you'll be able to do, or 4 rows. Because you're going to be taking it all the way down to a horizontal stitch that's going to be riding right above the edge line. And now, guys, you see my little legs and sandals because I had to re-record this part. So just ignore that. But we're going to be taking it all the way down to the edge line. And I just hit a bulky knot where I connected yarn. I just pushed in that bulky knot. and then continue on with the rest of the working yarn. Pulling a stitch here. This was a tight one right here, a tight horizontal stitch, and then pull that long loop I just did through the top loop, the loop sitting right above it. Now as you're doing your second row, if you don't like the poofiness that's coming out, this is still a chance to undo all your work and start from row 1 again with the first loop. So I know that's a lot of work right there, but if you're unhappy with how poofy the your knitting is coming out, go ahead and just undo all the work and start over again. And like I said, it's really trial and error, because with my first Jesus plushie, it is so flushed you can't even tell that there's like no indent. It's pretty crazy. I absolutely love it. This one you can tell there's an indent, because I should have started by one row of a difference, one row down. So this is a really tight horizontal stitch right here, and so if it's super tight, you're not doing nothing wrong. It's just extremely tight. Just use your index finger as your hook. That's how I see it as. We're using our fingers as our hooks here. Bonus if you have nails. So interlocking, my made up term, my made up technique here to keep to create a design with making a one straight piece coming down. This is what I do here. This is what I do for my angel pattern. So I'm going under a tight horizontal stitch using my index finger as a hook, pulling that working yarn through, and then pull that loop right through the top loop, the loop sitting right above it. Interlocking it. Move on to the next one. And so you're going to be working all the way down again till you get right up to the edge line of your plushie. Because the last row we're going to do is going to be regular knitting. You're just going to knit one whole last row. So I do this for 4 rows. I interlock for 4 rows. My 5th row is just regular knitting. And that's when we're going to cast it off. So you're going to bring it all the way down to where you can judge it, that when you do your last regular knitting row, whether it's going to be your 4th row or 5th row, it's going to be the robe length will be coming just low enough where it looks good. You got to be the judge right there and see, okay, I brought it all the way down to the edge line. One more row, it'll bring the length to come around where like his feet will be sticking out just a little bit. So lots of work. As I said, do not pull more than 24 loops, because if you pull 24 loops like me, you're going to see how much work it is. So this was a very tight one right here. I'm trying to judge it to make sure I'm skipping a horizontal stitch. You're getting that second horizontal stitch, squeezing that working yarn right through, and then pulling that loop right through the top loop above it. And then if you notice, which did not say this, we start right under our arm, because I'm not using no clip, no marker. I am simply memorizing that I started right under the arm, right at the corner, right in the front of the arm, at the corner. And so that's how I'm knowing, guys, that that's stitch 1. So that's a little bit risky right there, because it could become confusing. So use some kind of marker to mark your stitch 1. Or you can just do it like me and memorize that you started right at this vertical column aligning with the arm corner, right in the front. So that's why I say, that's why I pull the loop right under the arm. That's why I was saying measure right under the arm. It's right under the arm. So there is my second row. So can you see the little bit of flare right there? It's really hard, but we want to get this to be flushed. And so now I'm going to take it all the way down to where you see me showing the alignment right there, where I'm pulling out these horizontal stitches about right up on the edge line, very, very low. Because my last row, I want the robe to the length to be coming around where the legs are going to go. So I did jump ahead, guys, but I'm on the last row, and I wanted to show this is my 4th row of interlocking. And that's my stitch 1. So do you see what I'm doing? You want to be skipping a horizontal stitch, but if you cannot skip, because the next horizontal stitch is riding right up on the edge line of your plushie, then use that horizontal stitch. You just want to make sure now that at this point, your last 4th row or 3rd row, it is pulling a loop that's right up on the edge line, because now this row is what's determining how far your robe is going to be coming around his feet, his legs. And we just want a little bit of his legs coming out, because from what I've seen, Jesus Christ has his robe coming all the way down to his sandals. And so I wanted to give that look right there. So that's how I made the pattern. So we're going to be pulling these loops all the way low to the edge line. The last horizontal stitch that you can grab. So whether you are able to skip another horizontal stitch and take the second horizontal stitch, or you cannot skip the horizontal stitch, it's the last one riding right up on the edge line. You can't go any further down because you're going to be practically going right under the plushie. Then go ahead and pull whatever horizontal stitch right beneath the loop you can, and interlock it for your 3rd row or your 4th row. It should be no more than 4 rows. So let you guys observe. At this point, it can still be tight. So I'm trying to find right here, can I skip? Can I go low? And I feel like I can. Lots of trial and error. I mean, you can knit it and then you can judge it. Is it riding right up under the plushie where I'm going to be knitting the legs? If it is, undo it and then pull the horizontal stitch that's a little bit more further up. So lots of judgment right here where you got to determine. And like I said, and if you're following the written pattern, after your 3rd row of interlocking, or if this is your 4th row of interlocking, like me, you're going to knit 1 more row. Just regular knitting, no more interlocking. The last row is just to give a little bit of extra length. And we're going to be casting off. So that's what the last row is also meant for. When we cast off, it doesn't cinch and hug the robe length super tight to the body, which I will be explaining. If you feel like your robe length is coming too wide out, it's flaring too much, I'm going to show you how to decrease it. So lots of skills here that you can apply to your other plushies. So this is coming up to the back. I'm using my hand to show. I want to keep it aligned, that I'm not pulling too low here. So the horizontal stitch right there, I feel like I can pull that horizontal stitch right there and just keep going along a perimeter, a circumference of pulling horizontal stitches where it's right up on the edge line, coming around behind your plushie. This is really important right here. With my first one, I went too high up, and the robe is going, it's lopsided. It's more higher up in the back, and it comes lower in the front. Just a little bit, but that's what I'm talking about. You know, you want equal length coming all around. Checking as I'm pulling a loop through these horizontal stitches, that I'm making sure it's keeping even length going all around. So whether I am skipping a horizontal stitch or I'm not, I'm taking the next precedent one to pull the loop through and interlock it. So be it. You just want to make sure you're keeping it equal length and you're not pulling loops that's practically going under your plushie, because then you gotta go and fix that right there. So that's it, guys. This was the hard part right here. Your fingers are probably hurting. I know mine were a lot, but that's a commitment to get it done because it's worth it. It's beautiful. We're almost done. Right after this, it's the little legs and his sandals. And then you're pretty much done, especially if you want the really nice rope look where it's tied around his waist. I do show you that look in the tutorial. Very simple. You just tie some brown yarn right there and it looks really nice. It's like the shepherd look. Or you can do the sash look. And then there's the halo and done. So I'm right up on the back point where it's really easy to just ride this line of loops, to just go right up higher as I did with my first one, but just be aware of it. I just want to emphasize on that right there. So I'll let you finish observing. I'm almost done with this 4th row. So you should be on your 4th row or your 3rd row. And we're going to be adding a final row, which is just regular knitting. So here you go, guys. I am done. I am checking it, and I'm also showing you how I try to keep the line of loops going all around equal length. So now we are going to be adding our final row. This is the 5th row for me. It could be the 4th row for you. It's just simply knit. Now I'm knitting these loops about 2 fingertips width. And I'm going to go all the way around and knit for 24 loops. Done. We're going to cast off. I'm going to show you how to cast off, which is really simple. And I'm also going to show you how to decrease. If you don't like how because if you did 24 loops, you're going to notice that your robe, it's coming around the legs very wide. If you want it more cinched and hugged to the legs, like with my first Jesus plushie, then I'm going to show you how to do that, which is decreasing, which is very simple. So go ahead and just pull for your final row. This should be so quick, so easy. Less tension on the fingers now. We got to the hard part. I ran out of yarn here and I want to go ahead and include this. I'm adding it by simply tying on a knot right here. Gonna cut off the ends. And I want to show us right here, for like those who don't do the burn method or like it, you can go ahead and be tying on this yarn and it works still. So I'm gonna go and show you how I like blend this knot, especially if you're using really fluffy yarn. These knots are blended. So I tied it on right there, nice bulky knot. I'm gonna go ahead and use that working yarn and be knitting around that bulky knot. Get that bulky knot to just press right up behind against the row and continue on. And like I said, you wouldn't even know that it's there, especially with very fluffy yarn. This yarn from Amazon and Loops and Threads Fluffy Chenille white yarn. Really love that yarn right there. So you guys can completely see the indent line where I started. But if you have yours like mine and you want that sash look going around his waist, I will show you that, you know what, it works. It covers it up. Towards the end of the tutorial, I will show you how I do it. It's very simple. But now we're going to be casting off. So we want to go around, we want a length that goes around at least 1.5 or 2 times. 2 times is excessive. I actually had a lot of leftover. So either 1.5 going around or 2 times. So a nice long exaggerated tail that goes around your Jesus plushie 1.5 times or 2 times. And now we're going to be taking this long strand and weaving it from inside out, it's considered, or from bottom up, and going throughout all the loops and tugging a little bit. Why do we tug? Because it's cinching it. It's drawing it in. Now, if you pull 24 loops, 23 loops, you're going to have a very flared out robe design look. If you don't want that and you want it more cinched, simply when you're weaving this tail from inside out or from bottom up, overlap 2 stitches to decrease it. Take 2 stitches and overlap them, and then weave the long tail through it. You just decreased. You just minimized the width, the robe wideness coming around the legs. It's going to be more cinched, more tighter. So you can do it a couple of times, like maybe 2 or 3 times. So it's going to be real more hugging the legs, the feet. And I do show you what I'm talking about. I just want to completely explain it right now if you feel that your robe width is coming too flared out. But this is how you cast off. This is how we're going to be completing the robe. We are weaving this long tail from bottom up through all 24, 23, 22, 21 loops. 20 loops if you did. And if you did do 20 loops, you should see the dramatic difference that your robe width coming around the bottom should not be as wide. But because I did 24, I want to go ahead and explain that you can correct it. So I just want to give those little tips and tricks that even though we knitted this, there's ways to correct it and change it. And that's by decreasing. Taking 2 stitches, overlapping them, and then weaving your tail from bottom up through both of them. And there you go. So if I should have maybe did that, but no, I thought I'll give a different look to this one because my first one is real cinched. So do you see how like it's flaring out at the bottom? You know, if you don't want that look, decrease it as overlapping 2 loops. If you do like that look, then you're good to go. But here's what I'm going to be showing if you want to decrease. Taking 2 loops and overlapping them, just like so. Overlapping them, pulling the working yarn right through from bottom up. Decreased, minimized it, cinched it. And then, like I said, be tugging a little bit, because when you're tugging, it's drawing inward the width, the expansion. And so just little tips and tricks here when you're casting off for your robe. And like I said, I do this for my angel pattern. Same technique, same thing. We just start way up higher, right under the arms that are in praying position. The indent line is hidden right under the arms. So if you are curious about the angels, you can go ahead and do the angels, and you have it through Jesus plushie. I have that set up, and I absolutely love mine, seeing it every day. So almost done here. Just got to go through 2 more. I'm going to show you how to finish off, which is using hot glue, fabric glue. You could tie a knot. You could sew it. So come into right where I started now, or to the first to stitch 1. I'm simply going to weave the tail right under stitch 1. And now you're going to cut off all that excess amount. Now, if you're going to tie it, you want to cut a couple of inches tail, and you're going to tie that tail end to a bottom loop. So look at all that excess we had right there. So you could cut a couple of inches tail and tie it around a bottom loop, or cut a smaller end tip and use hot glue or fabric glue, as you see what I'm doing, and I'm going to mold it. And so we don't want to feel that glue, so just use very little and just press it. So there's like 3 different methods: hand sew it with embroidery thread, hot glue or fabric glue, or tie it around one of the bottom loops. And here you go, guys. It should pretty much all the way. Well, you're done if you want to do the rope coming around the waist. And this is what I'm going to show you right here. Right where that indent is, if you did your indent a little bit too high up, here's one design you can do. And this is like the shepherd look. I absolutely love it. I'm just going to loop it around, taking some chunky yarn, tying it like a scarf. And there you go. Look how nice that is. I absolutely love this look right here. So there is this look right here if you like it. So if you like this look, there you go. You just got to finish off with the legs and the sandals and the halo if you want it, which that's on the last tutorial. But there you go. So now we're going to be doing the feet, the little bit of the legs and the sandals. So I'm giving you a visual. It's going to be coming right up under the plushie, right up towards the front of the edge line, which I'll be showing you right now. So I did add an extra row, guys, on the right side. That's where it's looking a little bit longer. I wasn't counting correctly. That is okay. So we're going to be using our skin tone color. We're going to be pulling for 3 loops, just like the arm. And once again, we're using our eyes as our marker. So I'm using my eyes here to let me know where to be pulling these loops, where to be aligning these feet. Now I'm starting right up at the front of the edge line, right up at the front. Right up under the plushie, right up towards the front. Again, using my eye here to let me know where to pull the top stitch and the 2 side stitches, just like the arm formation, exactly the same. And you're going to be knitting for 2 rows in your skin tone color. So lots of diagonal stitches here, very tight. Just find 3 stitches that you can pull 3 loops, your top stitch and then your 2 side stitches, just like the arm. Keeping it relatively close to the front edge line. of the plushie. So there was my top loop I pulled. Now I'm going to pull for my second one, and it's kind of like a diagonal stitch here. It was kind of hard because we're pulling where we did the enclosing of the bottom foundation chain, so it's kind of hard right here, this part. You might need it, you're gonna feel like you're going under a big bulky 2 strands, a diagonal strands. So be it. Just find 3 stitches that you can pull for 3 loops and keeping them flushed. Just think of the arm formation. So now I'm pulling for my last side stitch. I'm trying to keep it flushed to the top loop, tight perimeter. And we're going to be knitting for 2 rows in our skin tone color. And then we're going to be switching over to the sandals color, which I'm keeping it the same as with the hair and the beard. The sandals is the same matching color. You could do a different color if we're just going to be switching on the 3rd row. So there you go. Flushed loops together. And do you see how close I have it to the edge line, the front of the bottom of the plushie? Real close to the robe coming down. Now I'm going to go ahead and knit my 2nd row. Tightly knitting, just as the arm. So making these loops really small. Here's my 2nd row. And once you have your 2nd row completed, go ahead and switch over to your new color using the intarsia method. You can use the burn method, which will be way more of a cleaner switch over, easier. But I'm going to use the intarsia method here. So here's my 3rd row. I'm switching to my new color, keeping it the same. Now watch what I do here. Remember, we don't want stuffing. So I'm going to poke in this tail deep into the plushie. I don't want stuffing. So that includes the yarn too. No natural stuffing. So once you poked in your tail really good, unless you did the burn method, then go ahead and knit your 3rd row. And that's it. Just knit your 3rd row in your secondary color, in your sandals color. Now the 4th row, we're going to switch back to our skin tone color. So watch it. This is intarsia method right here. The skin tone color working yarn is on top, if you notice that. 4th row right here. And then once I'm done with the 4th row, I am done with the skin tone color. The 5th row and 6th row is in my sandals. Done. So at that point, you can go ahead and cut it off. I didn't, but you can go and cut it off to get it out of your way so it's not confusing if you're doing the intarsia method. And just poke in that tail into the plushie. Now this is the 5th row and 6th row in your sandals color. Done. So now I'm chopping it. Short little tail. Poke it into the plushie as deep as you can. We don't want no stuffing. So I'm trying to poke it in there. I didn't really cut a long tail though, so that's fine. We just don't really want stuffing. So now I'm finishing off the sandals. This is the 5th row, and then the 6th row in your sandals color. Done. Weave the tail and close it. Done. And that completes the whole pattern, guys. So I'm trying to keep these tight knitted loops, making it challenging because I'm pulling these loops so small here. But that's what we want. So it should be looking something like this. Now you can tell where, like with the intarsia method, you can tell that the brown is coming down where it should be the skin tone color. And I'm going to show you how to fix that right there, which is using fabric glue or hot glue. But you can't fill it if you're very cautious with it, which I will be showing you that right now. I just want to go ahead and enclose the sandal. Again, same thing with the arm. Like at this point, it's all repetitive techniques. Same thing. Weave the tail from inside out through all 3 loops. Tug, tug, tug. Nice and good. We want it minimized, tight and small. And then go ahead and weave it down a stitch. And again, wherever I tuck in my tails, I'm going to be using some hot glue just for extra security. You can tie a little knot on it and then tuck it in. It will add a little bit of bulkiness, and so we just want to keep that as minimum as possible. But now I'm going to be weaving it down, and I'm trying to find like what side I want to weave this tail down. So find a side that makes sense to you. That'll look best to do it on this side. Weave that tail under that stitch and tug. Secure it, minimize it. And here is where you can make the choice to tie a little knot on it and tuck it in, or use fabric glue, hot glue. And I'm going through 2 stitches here, guys. I went through 2 stitches. I feel like 2 stitches is perfect for me. I just want to really secure it, and just it helps minimize, keep it nice and tight. So there you go. Now I'm going to show you how to fix where it's going all even around, like the row of the skin tone. It's all the skin tone color because of the intarsia method. So as you see the scrap piece of color yarn I'm using the skin tone color rather than the sandals color. And that's actually going to help even it up. So a little bit of hard piece came out right there. Just took my scissors, chopped it right off. Now it's soft. And so squish it, mold it, and that completes the pattern, guys. So I'm not going to show the second one, but I am going to show, again, using your eye as alignment. And then use your first leg now to help align with the second one, because you want perfect alignment here. So again, using my right at the bottom point of my eye, trailing my finger all the way down till I get to the front edge line. So that's when we're pulling the top loop. This is when we're pulling all the loops. Now I'm aligning it with the first leg by tracing my fingers, and here is where I'm going to be pulling the loops. So I'm determining the stitches before I start pulling the loops. And there you go, guys. And again, I want to show you correcting the skin tone row to be an even color. And again, it's taking a scrap piece of color of yarn and using glue. And we're going to poke it in right where we see the change of color. So right over the sandals color, right where like the intarsia method is making the row uneven. And so I'm going to be poking it in a little bit better than that right there. Mold it in. And that's it, guys. So if it's bothering you or you want to correct it a little bit, there's this right here. So again, a little tip and trick. You want to just keep molding it, pressing it. You want to secure it. We don't want the glue felt, and we want it secured, where it's like all just one whole row coming around. None of this that we did. And so I'm going to go ahead and do it on this side right here. And that's it. So with my first one, I didn't really have this issue. With this one, I did. So I mean, I guess it's good because it's a tutorial and I'm just kind of showing you how to correct it. And there you go. So I think it works. And that's it, guys. This completes part 4. If you're doing the rope look that's coming around the waistline, you're pretty much done unless you want the halo, because the last part 5, is on the sash, the red sash, and the halo. And this completes our Jesus plushie. So I hope you found this one helpful. This was the long one right here. Now it's the sash and the halo. Thank you so much, guys.